been?
Yes, sir. In regard to Upshaw, can you sort of tell us with him the reason that he's not here now is what?
We sent out the release yesterday. You know what I'm going to say. All my comments about that were in the release. I'm not going to talk about it further at this point.
Was it a surprise, just sort of what happened, or was it something that was sort of building up?
I'm not going to comment.
About the process.
I apologize in advance that if you ask me 60 times, I'm going to tell you I have no comment. So I'm not going to really comment on that much.
How much does his loss impact you guys going forward?
And comment on that. I mean, we had to, you go out and you build your defense around knowing who's in there. And we have to readjust a little bit with him being out of there.
Is it, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it'll impact us mostly on the defensive end.
Does it feel like last season in that regard, where you were so thin on the front line, you had to change things around, or?
Not that drastic a change. We won't have to make that drastic a change as we did last year.
Offensively, does it change your identity as a club? I mean, you guys kind of go to a different system, different.
No, offensively, I think it may, whereas defensively, we have to make some adjustments. I think offensively, because you can't replace what he did with protecting the rim. But I think our spacing can become better. I think the floor can open up a little more.
Do you think you'll still play as much zone?
We'll play a lot of zone, yeah. You know, we definitely have a depth issue now, more than before. I didn't think we had a total depth issue before in terms of playing guys if everybody stayed healthy. But now, you know, we can't afford for guys to foul out, do the foul trouble.
But you ever had a situation like this during all of your years of coaching?
No.
And, just with everything that you've had to sort of deal with as a coach, just if you could sort of categorize this, I mean, is this just sort of, how do you handle this thing?
I think if you coach long enough, you're going to run into a lot of different situations and scenarios. And this is one that's been different, and, chalk up another one for experience. And now we have been involved in a situation that was kind of uncharted waters now. But yeah, over the years, we've seen a lot of different scenarios. This one has been a little different.
Is there a sense of disappointment that you took this guy who obviously had problems at his first school, and you weren't able to kind of keep him on that track? Is there disappointment there?
Anytime it doesn't work out with part of your family, you're disappointed. There's no doubt. But I do know where things were when he first came, and I know where things are now. And even though it didn't work out here, I still think that it grew a lot while he was here, and that's really important.
With where he's at now as a person, do you think could you see him playing in the NBA a year from now?
I could see him. I think I said many times off the floor, Rob needs to take care of business in the spring and the summer. I said that quite a bit, and I say the same thing. If he takes care of business, he can be whatever he wants to be. He's a smart guy. He's talented, not just as a basketball player. He's talented.
In hindsight, was how you guys dealt with him last year, was that a suspension, or was it just allowing him to, as you sort of said over and over and over, take care of what he needs to take care of off the floor?
Let's just say it was a situation with both of us where we just had to work through this, and we had to set some boundaries, some structure.
There's a lot of his loss kind of fall on Kemp's shoulders? I mean, how much more do you rely on Kemp to kind of fill that void?
Well, obviously, Sean has stepped up this year, and we have to help Sean find it within himself. And I said, we have to help Sean. He's not just out there on an island like, okay, you better perform now. You know, we're all going to help Sean to step up even more. But it's not just Sean. If you're averaging 2 rebounds a game as a guard, now maybe we need you to average 3. We need everyone to step up in Robert's absence and just be a little bit better. And sometimes there's somebody who's been waiting in the wings to get their opportunity, and they finally get it, and they never look back. Sometimes that happens. Hopefully that something like that can happen here, but not just Sean. Every guy on this team has to step up and give us just a little more, find a way to give us just a little more.
Does Donovan step into the starting lineup?
Yes, Donovan will be a starter.
Will he play the 4? Will you use Mike there some? Or?
We have 4 guards. We have Sean and then 4 guards. That's how.
Is this kind of going back to the on-the-fly stuff from last year?
Not as much. There'll be a little of that depending on how a game goes, you know. But if we had a full complement of players and something bizarre happens in the game, 4 or 5 guys file out, there would be some on-the-fly stuff going on then. But in terms of, okay, what do we do now? We got to totally revamp everything we're doing, like we did last year.
Yeah.
We won't have to do that.
I don't know if this was addressed earlier, but is Robert giving you any idea as to what he's going to do? Is he going to stay? Is he in school? Is he going to finish
That
up?
was not addressed.
Okay.
Like I said, whatever he decides, we will be right there trying to help him.
Okay. So to your knowledge, he hasn't made up his mind on any course of action after this. He's not told us it's just happened pretty quick. He's not told us exactly what he's going to do.
Coach, can I ask you about just the general process of a dismissal? I mean, is it just as systematic as it appears, where there's a rule, it's broken, see you later? Or do you think about what else can be done in this regard?
I think you always try to go to whatever length possible if someone is wanting it, to try to help someone get to the finish line. And sometimes, like in this case, it just came to a point where it didn't seem like that was going to happen.
What have you seen from Donovan over the last couple of weeks in his development that says to you that he's ready to step into this role?
He's in better condition. He's in better shape. So, I mentioned he got a dunk in the game because he sprinted to the passing lane and got it there. He hit a 3 when we were here in our last, I want to say, our last home game against Oregon. He ran ahead of the pack, spotted up, got a 3. He's been able to get to the board more, to rebound more. In the last 2 games, he's getting a rebound every 4 minutes, the last 2 games, which is very good. So his conditioning has allowed him to be a little more active on the floor and a little more versatile.
What are you still looking to see from him over the next few weeks now as he moves into the starting lineup?
To continue to rebound and continue to be more versatile offensively. He is, in a couple of instances, he has kind of driven the closeout, meaning that the guy's coming out to attack him and he's driven by the guy. Hadn't quite completed the play yet, but he's capable of doing those things, and we'll probably see more of that.
Going with 4 guards, would it have been a tougher decision if Darren Johnson had been playing the whole year?
Explain that.
Well, I know Darren he's been dinged up, and would there have been a competition between maybe Donovan and Darren for that spot?
You know what, I think Donovan has a good feel to be able to go back and forth. In college basketball, if you look around the country, there are a lot of teams that play with 4 skilled guys. It's not always 4 guards. And 4 skilled guys. They're Stanford, Roscoe Allen, guy we got getting ready to play against. He's a skilled guy. He's 6'8", 6'9", but he's a skilled guy. He can drive around you. He can shoot the 3. a lot of teams are playing with those guys. But when you talk to coaches, if you're gonna call a position a 3 or a 4, it's difficult for a lot of guys. I'd say most guys to learn the 4 position and learn the 3 position and be effective in both. Most of the time, it's much easier to just learn one. Last year when Mike Anderson, when everybody went down and when we went with 4 guards, he had to learn different responsibilities. It was tough for him at first because he had learned one position and now he had to do it a different way and then go back to, it's just difficult. Donovan probably is best suited on our team to be able to do that.
And what about G? I mean, it seems like you talked about helping Sean.
Yeah.
Seems like he would be the natural
He'll
fit.
get his opportunity, no doubt.
Have
No
you
doubt.
seen anything the last week or two that give you hope that he's progressing like you would have hoped?
Yeah, he's, remember he was out. He had that boot and he was out, but now he's getting his timing back a little bit. We would definitely need him to rebound the basketball. We would definitely need him to do that. But G is somewhat a facilitator on offense. He really understands our offense and he understands spacing and in terms of handling the basketball. He can get the ball from point A to point B when it's supposed to be done. So those are some things we'd be looking for him to do.
You talked about Allen being a skilled big. Would G kind of fit under that as well, since he's more of a Euro
Yeah,
big? And
I would say he's fairly skilled, but what I'm talking about, I don't even know if I used the word skilled big. I said 4 skilled guys.
Yeah.
So Kevin Durant he seems like he's 6'11" and a half. It's ridiculous that he does all that stuff at that height. But go off on a tangent. He is a skilled player. He's not a skilled big. He's a skilled tall guy.
Yeah.
He's skilled. He's different. I'm just trying to think of Tim Duncan is very skilled, but he's not going to play on the perimeter and drive by people. That's the difference to me. G is not the guy that you're going to catch him. He's going to catch it on the wing and drive by and make a play.
does he have things in his game where he can maybe extend?
He can step outside and knock a shot down. Yeah. You didn't see his dribble drive to the basket when we played, was it Oregon? From the elbow? When he just took it, I think he kind of faked the guy too and laid it up. It's kind of smooth. So he showed his skill a little bit right there.
Jason Randall, how does the team try to look to defend him?
He's kind of had his way with us the last 2 times we played them. Definitely when we played them there last year, and then this year in the second half, he got going. I thought we did a pretty good job on him early, but he got going in the second half, so we definitely have to make him a focal point. Everyone that plays them says the same thing. He's leading the league in scoring, so it's not easy. But, we said the same thing about Joseph Young when going into the game. I thought those were 2 of the guys in our league that can just go get you a bucket. Play defense, play whatever defense you want to play. Give them the ball and get out of their way, they can just go score for you. There are not a lot of guys like that. Randall is one of those.
What do you
How does this fundamentally change your defense in terms of you still go zone, you now change it up?
We'll still play zone. We'll play man-to-man as well, but we have to really make sure we're concentrating on containing the basketball and not allowing people to get to the ring. I think subconsciously sometimes we felt like, okay, I'm here, but if I do get beat, we got a shot blocker back there. We have to contain the ball as if there's no one back there, even though there will be.
What do you think losing Rob does to what your team is capable of this season? I guess, obviously the goal, guys have said they really felt like they could get back to the NCAA tournament this year, just in terms of what you think your ceiling is now. How does that change?
Well, we'll find out because, like I said, offensively, we could possibly look a little different. I think we will, a little different. We'll see how much that takes us. I think his rebounding and his shot blocking was something that is going to be hard to replace. But like I said, everybody has to be able to step up and contribute a little bit. I'd be able to tell you that more after a few games, probably.
Do you have a sense of what the emotional impact will be, just when sort of guys lose someone who like they've been with for the past couple months,
Yeah.
2 years.
I think that that would probably be more of a concern than anything, just emotionally, the ability to come back and bounce back and go out there and really believe that you can do it without a big gun that was gone.
Have you had a chance to talk with the team yet and to sort of meet with them and sort of maybe gauge?
We talked and met, but today, again, this is 24 hours later, we'll be able to get a better understanding. We'll get a better understanding how we go out there and practice today. Guys are flying around, enthusiastic and all, but this is a short turnaround from that. This is a deal where if we weren't playing until Saturday or Sunday, it would probably be a good thing at this point. But that's not how the schedule is lined up right now. We got to know.
I know some coaches think that, or of the belief that it's good to have a turnaround like that and get right back on the court when you've had a loss, like the one you guys had on the road. Do you feel the same way?
No, this is different because sometimes the loss you view it, sometimes the kids view it like a video game. Just start over, we're good, you know. But in this situation, you can't just necessarily start over the way you had it before. It is a little different now. So when you lose a game, you think, we blew it, we'll get this right, we can handle this. So that's where we have to make sure that we still have a firm belief that we can go out and be successful.
What do you want your guys to learn from that Stanford game a month ago and bring here?
That we have to take care of basketball. In that particular game, we need to make sure we take care of basketball. Giving up 27 points on 19 turnovers, and you go into overtime and lose, that's a big statement right there. So, got to take care of the ball.
From the last scout of Stanford to this, have you noticed any of their players take some noticeable steps up?
The two Allens didn't have the same role that they have now. Roscoe Allen was coming off the bench, and he missed some free throws in our game, but he did hurt us at times. He was very active, man, really active out there. And then the guard, Marcus Allen, he brings a lot of energy. He's a little bit, for them, like when Vadoy Overton would come into the game with us, all of a sudden the defense just picks up like that, you know, and that's how he is, but he's in the starting lineup now. So he gives them a little better defensive look.
Just the idea of bringing in a transfer, when like things like this happen, does this make you a little gun shy going forward about bringing in somebody who does have some baggage?
Well, these guys didn't, when you say transfer versus baggage, taking someone on in general with baggage is not something we normally do. We've taken Jamal Williams, who was a transfer, was great for us. Ryan Appleby, great for us. So we've taken some transfers over the years that ended up working out pretty good. So, but we are not usually in the business of taking on guys with a lot of baggage.
And did that sort of philosophy, did you really do that really like 2 years ago, and that was kind of your philosophy then, and really kind of like this past year that you guys have kind of worked more forward to getting early commitments from either high school kids or JC kids? Was that a deal that you guys had to do then? And you've had some guys who didn't really work out from that 2 to 3 year period there. And
it wasn't due to baggage though. I'm sorry, there was a particular young man that had a trouble pass that, yeah, I forgot about that, but he never really made it to practice. Yeah. So, other guys that have not worked out, just a lot of times they were, you know, concerned that they weren't going to play as much, that type of thing. But go ahead.
No, but just it would seem that going forward that your new philosophy or going back to your old philosophy may sort of eliminate sort of these types of situations where maybe there's a disconnect or maybe things don't work out as to where.
Well, like I said, in 13 years, there's not a long history of that, number one. Number two, I could give you a laundry list of those that wanted to come here with baggage that we didn't take. I can give you a long list of those guys that we said, no, don't think we can do it.
What was it about Rob that made you think that was a chance worth taking?
You have spent time interviewing him. You've spent time around him. You see what he's like. He's engaging. He's intelligent. There was some signs that maybe he could work through some things, and we decided to take the risk.
Was that maybe the most frustrating or disappointing part of the whole thing? Because every time he came in front of us, you'd never think that he'd ever been in trouble or had a troubled past.
Right. Yeah, that almost like a tease, a little bit frustrating at points, but there are people that, when they were younger, made some decisions that weren't very wise. And the cameras weren't there, though. And later on, they went on to be very productive. And they go on later, and maybe things get worse before they get better. But in that moment, when maybe they get worse, all of the advice, all of the people that came to them and tried to help them over a period of time, sometimes it all comes back to you, and then all of a sudden it makes sense. And then now, not only are they better off, but now they're helping a lot of other people because they learned from their mistakes. And I'm just hopeful that can happen.
I was going to ask you, having been around him now a couple of years, do you have high hopes that he can, that switch will go off for him?
I would be like the most excited. But there are a lot of people that have been around him that would be fired up if that went on and